What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? We are back here for part 2, y'all, of our in-state versus UVA preview here with Dan Siegel here from SB Nation for the UVA side. If you haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure to go and do that, excuse me, first and foremost. And then come right back here again during the first part. We talked about the homecoming of Brandon Armstrong, and kind of talking a little bit about what you can expect from the UVA offensive side, and a little bit about defense side as well. But again, here we're going to start to get into the keys to the game, as well as some score predictions here. But first and foremost here, I made sure to go ahead and pull up the spread movement so far. And I think the spread opened today, which it actually opened at NC State being favored by 9, and now it's moved up to State being favored by 10. And then for the total side, if I can click that right here, it opened at 45.5, and it's still at 45.5. So it's basically predicting, if I could do math in my head correctly, like a 32. I did that math way wrong. 23 plus 5. So 28-18 game basically is what it's predicting. 28-18 win. So kind of give it to me, Dan, first and foremost. I guess we'll just kind of jump into it here. Like, what's your initial thoughts? Like, do you like? I know we kind of talked a little bit about before the recording about how I was a little bit shocked at how the score, how the spread was only at 9. Being that UVA's 0-3, just like you said, losing to JMU. We took Notre Dame, number 10 team in the country. We had an opportunity to tie the game there in the fourth quarter. We've gone 2-0 ever since. So, but I'm also here saying as well that we're also 0-3 against the spread. So maybe that's part of the reason. It's just like, okay, maybe we're not going to over inflate because then everybody's just going to smash the against NC State, because we're 0-3 so far against the spread. So, and you said you had some thoughts. So give it to me on your thoughts on maybe why Vegas put that spread at plus or -9 to start.
Yeah. So first off, Vegas is. I don't want to say Vegas is always right because that phrase has its pros and cons, but Vegas is not there to set agendas. They're not there to set narratives. Like, they're trying to make money. So when Vegas has a spread that's completely different than what most of us think, my advice is we're all missing something. We don't know what it is, but just don't bet that spread either way. What my explanation possibly could be for why it's lower than we think it is because Virginia is, look, they're definitely among the worst teams in Power 5 football, but they're still competent. Like, they have Power 5 football players out there. They're not going to lose every game by 40 points like David Cutcliffe at Duke in his final year. I think it's going to be a little bit better of a product than that. They'll probably end up losing pretty much all of their games, but they're still Power 5 football players. There's competency, and that's why I think I'm not going to predict them to win this game. I'll already say that now, but it could be close.
Okay.
Yeah. I think 9 is about right. I'd say. I mean, it is on the road, so if this was in Raleigh, it'd probably be closer to 2 touchdowns. But like Dan said, I mean, they're still an ACC team, so they've got competent players, and it's definitely not going to be easy, especially going on the road.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I mean, I think I think this is kind of, I think honestly, another thing that might come to it too, is that I think that just like a lot of NC State fans, Vegas just doesn't really know what the deal is with this NC State team. Like, are they really good? Are they okay? Like, we don't know. Like, we saw, what they can do, against Notre Dame, where, I mean, they were fourth quarter, had an opportunity to tie the game. VMI played a pretty much flawless game from beginning to end. But UConn, didn't show a whole lot, but I kind of contribute a lot of that to the fact that Doran, I really do think, had this agenda that I'm going to go into UConn, I'm going to get the win, I'm going to get away as injury-free as possible, and I'm going to walk away. Like, I'm not looking to go to UConn and try and blow them out by 40 with Notre Dame next on the schedule here. So I think that's kind of part of it too. So I think that is kind of the thing, and especially with college football the way it is right now. I mean, dude. Yeah. Like, can we talk about? I mean, Dan, I know you'll love to talk about this here, but I mean, Florida State squeaking one over Boston College, Wake Forest squeaking one over Old Dominion. Like, there is there is no such thing as a surefire blowout in today's day and age. Like Alabama,
Oh
Yeah.
my
squeaking one out against South Florida. Like there is nothing for, like Georgia being down 14-3 to South Carolina at halftime. I think every single college football game, every single spread should be by no more than like 14 points. Because if it's any more than that, go ahead and bet it. Because there's a good chance it's probably gonna be a whole lot closer than that blowout that Vegas is suggesting. At least that's what I've seen through 3 weeks so far.
It's the beauty of the sport, though. That's why I love it so much, or one of the reasons, at least.
But do you think that a lot of this has to maybe be because, like who's the dominant? Like who's going to win the national championship this year? Like do either of you know for sure this team's going to win it this year? Because I'm sitting here saying, I mean, Bama, Georgia, FSU, all three of those guys who were top 3 in the country struggled. So
Georgia,
like I'm sitting here right now.
It's got to be Georgia.
Who is it?
Yeah.
Until proven otherwise.
Yeah, like if you have to pick one team, it's
Sure.
Georgia, but then like after that, it's like it's wide open after that.
Exactly. So I mean, like, but I mean, like in previous years, I mean, Georgia, I mean, again, would look flawless last year, and I mean, and you know, Bama years before, I mean, they always, you know, you can almost guarantee that they were not going to have more than one loss in any single season. But now you're seeing all of this volatility within college football and the rankings, things like that. I mean, Colorado, and everybody's saying, "Oh, dude, the Colorado's about to smash Colorado State by 50." Took them double overtime.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, yeah, they're feeling good, but you barely beat Colorado State. Could you imagine if they lost to Colorado State? Could you imagine ESPN that next day? Could you imagine?
Yeah, and I think that it's still applies to ACC too. Like you were saying, Florida State barely gets by Boston College. You know, Clemson loses that first week to Duke. There isn't really a clear contender. I mean, you can kind of separate it into tiers. Like you throw FSU and Duke and Miami, UNC probably into that top tier, but like there's no clear title favorite right now. I don't think. Especially, I think it was FSU, but after that game against BC, can you really say that anymore?
And Dan, let me add in one thing just to kind of highlight what you're about to probably say here. But just as a reminder, you think that, oh, this is, you know, maybe if you haven't followed Boston College and you think, okay, it's Boston College, they're solid, right? No, they lost at home to Northern Illinois 27-24 in overtime. They barely beat Holy Cross 31-28.
Yeah.
Barely beat them at home. So, and then you almost pull off an upset against the number 3 team in the country in Florida State. Like, there's no explanations for what just occurred right there. There is zero explanation for that. Dan, please go.
No, I was just going to say about the ACC to, rail on them a little more. The last ACC championship that did not involve Clemson was Wake Forest and Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh Phil Dracovic is...
They are terrible.
That program into the ground.
Oh, they are so bad.
And Wake Forest almost lost to Old Dominion, which... Don't even get me started on Old Dominion. They're always doing things like that. But
yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I've some friends of mine that were at the West Virginia game, and some of them are West Virginia fans, and of course, hey, listen, congratulations, you won that game. But I'm sitting here saying it's not because you played well; it's because Pitt played that bad. They were terrible, terrible. It's like Phil Dracovic being a guy that was, considered as a part of the elite echelon of the ACC, during, before last season. Man, he is not that is for sure. But anyway, we have quickly moved from the UVA in-state preview to the what the heck is going on in college football in the ACC right now, which, hey, I think is completely okay, because that is a topic right now that 100% is justified to be discussed, because there's, again, I'm looking at, Northern Illinois lost in overtime, 3-point win over Holy Cross, but then 2-point loss to Florida State as 20-something point underdogs. So it makes zero sense. And then, of course, and it's going to be just right that Boston College is going to go to Louisville this year and get beat by 50. That would go exactly right with how Boston College has done so far this season. So anyway, but jumping back here to UVA, so I mean, I very much said. I mean, again, JMU, even though everybody, yes, they're not a part of the FBS, they're not a part of Power Five, like nothing like that. JMU is never a school that if you see them on your schedule, you can't say to yourself, "Oh, that's a win." No, you cannot say. I don't care who you are. Like, I don't care if you are Bama, Georgia, whatever. Like, you cannot overload JMU. They are a solid program. And I mean, I would say them and North Dakota State are two, Division I AA schools that come to mind. That I mean, if you see them on your schedule, you cannot look past them. But I mean, so kind of give it to me. I mean, like, are you? Because I mean that JMU loss, I'm not saying like, oh man, what a terrible loss. Because I actually don't think that Virginia was really favored by that much heading into that game. Which
you're not going to want to hear this because then you're going to compare it to the spread of this game, but they were 7-point underdogs at home.
Really? Wow.
So if you do the math, which obviously things change on a week-to-week basis, but if you do the math, JMU and NC State are 3 points apart. According to
That's
Vegas,
crazy.
Which feels a little weird. But James Madison, think about it. They are a program. They just went from FCS to FBS and won, I think, 8 or 9 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years with them. But that's not the topic of conversation, obviously.
Yeah, because we could totally talk about ACC expansion and all that jazz, right? So conference realignment, oh boy. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So kind of tell me, Dan. So if NC State beats Virginia, it's on Friday. It's going to be because of this. What would you say?
It's because NC State doesn't literally hand Virginia the game. Like I think.
Okay.
I think if they take care of the ball, they don't break down defensively, they take advantage of the big plays when they're there because they will be there. But most importantly, just keep moving the chains, keep wearing down the defense. It might be close at halftime. It might even be close into the third quarter. But there's been no sign that this Virginia team could close out a 60-minute game. So as long as they don't literally hand Virginia the game, there's been nothing to indicate that they will not win this game.
Yeah.
We talked about a quarterback situation a little bit. What's the skill position outlook for UVA, and who's NC State gotta keep an eye on?
I think pretty highly, honestly, of the Virginia running backs and wide receivers. I don't think they're the issue of this team. There's running backs that are okay. There's Kobe Pace, who's more of a receiving threat, I feel like. And then there's Mike Hollins, who I feel like is the most well-rounded. And I don't know if everybody knows about this, but check out the story about Mike Hollins. He was part of the actual tragic shooting and went back into the bus to save his teammates and got wounded. It's amazing how he's on the football field. So check that out. That's a side
crazy
story. But
wow.
So that's the running backs. The wide receivers are probably one of the strengths of the team. There's Malik Washington, the Northwestern transfer, had 700 or 800 yards last year at Northwestern, and he's a really explosive guy after the catch, could really get open downfield if, the quarterbacks could hit him. And so that's the guy to watch. There is some speed on the outside. There's Malachi Fields. That's another guy to watch. Has a couple of drops this year, but also very capable of the splash play.
Dan, can you give some numbers too, like what their jerseys numbers are, just for people who maybe aren't seeing what, when you say their names, like if you can give jersey numbers, that might be helpful. Just obviously, numbers are going to be a whole lot easier to see on a football field than the names.
Yeah, so I'd say the two guys to watch out for in terms of the receivers will be Malik Washington. He wears number 4, and then Malachi Fields number 8. And
Perfect.
I think obviously the receiving room is not as deep as years past, but those two guys definitely are people to watch, and mostly because of their big playability. They're not the guys that are necessarily going to be the 6 to 7 yards every series of downs, move the chains, which, to be fair, that's more of a Tony Muskett thing than Anthony Calandria thing. But they're the splash play guys, and you got to watch out for that.
And I mean, looking at it, I see two things when you're looking at UVA. First thing I see is that so far in 3 games, UVA has 0 points off turnovers, which I think is big, just because I think that points off turnovers, because again, obviously a turnover, a sack, a fumble, interception is a game-changing, can be a game-changing play, but it's really what you do after that. AKA, perfect example, NC State versus Notre Dame. We turn the ball. We get a fumble and turn over at the 20-yard line, down by 7, and have a perfect opportunity to tie the game, and we score 0 points out of it. We don't get a touchdown, then we missed a field goal. Well, then from then on out, basically the game was just like all the air came out of the balloon right there. So even though we got the turnover, we didn't basically the turnover is basically the setting of the nail, and then basically like scoring the points is the hammer in the nail. And I think that for UVA not being able to take advantage of mistakes, of opportunities that do come, like you were saying, Dan, is definitely a downfall for UVA for sure. To kind of drive that motivational or kind of the momentum of the game, turn the momentum of the game back in their favor. And then secondly, right now UVA is averaging 1.9 yards a carry. And which I know, especially for a true freshman quarterback back there, you and I and any single football analyst or even just somebody who just watches sports in general can say, you do not want to rely on a freshman quarterback to carry your team for you unless it's Trevor Lawrence or Johnny Manziel or Jameis Winston, like an all-time great, which I'm assuming, unless I'm missing something here, unless Des Kitching is absolutely awful, which I'm assuming he's not absolutely awful, then Calandria is not one of those. So, would you kind of agree with my synopsis there of kind of the two things that really stand out from the UVA offensive side there, Dan?
Yeah, so from the running perspective, I think it's not about the running backs. They have plenty of pop, and we've seen big plays, even a couple big plays that were called back. I think it's about the offensive line. The offensive line is pretty atrocious. I don't know how much of the Tennessee game you saw, but I don't want to pick on a kid, but the right tackle was just getting beat play after play after play. And that's a potential spot for NC State to attack. Also, regarding the turnovers, I think it's just the defense is not designed as much to take turnovers as much as it is to just force you into 3 and outs, force you into punting situations, bend but not break. But I've also talked about the fact that they've given up so many big plays, and that seems kind of contradictory. The tackling is just not nearly as good as even it was last year, because a lot of people don't know this, but John Radzinski, the defensive coordinator, made massive improvements in the defense last year. It was the offense that was atrocious. And now it's almost flipped. So it's a weird thing to happen from year 1 to year 2 in a coaching tenure, but also the Virginia defense did lose a lot of pieces, mainly Fentrell Cypress, the corner. He is regarded as a borderline first-round pick. He's now playing at Florida State and playing lockdown coverage there. Another guy, Nick Jackson, the staple of the defense, kind of like played like a Peyton Wilson, like role, did everything. He's now at Iowa doing his thing and seemingly playing pretty well. So the loss of those two pieces to the portal, I think the defensive scheme is fine. I think the talent is just not there to execute it. So it might be a matter of just NC State, my guy is better than your guy kind of football.
Gotcha. Cool. All right, Dan. So I think we've hit that point where we start to talk a little bit about game predictions here, my man. So, so what we'll do, just that way, we kind of split it up here. So I'm actually going to put Michael on the spot here. ask for your prediction. I'll let Dan, go next, and then I'll kind of wrap it up here. As obviously I've already given my strong predictions on how this game is going to go here. But Michael, what? Give me your thoughts here, brother.
Yeah. So this is gonna definitely. I'm definitely interested to see, because it's not just like your normal road game to open the ACC because of the Brennan Armstrong homecoming element to it. So, I think that could go really well for us, or it could go really poorly. But I think I feel good enough that like Dan was saying, I think it's gonna come down to the talent level is just a little better on our side of the ball. So I'm gonna go State 30, UVA 17.
30-17. Okay. So cool. So kind of keeping it at the over under that Vegas has, but a little bit more than that 9-point spread that Vegas has so far. All right, cool. Dan, so I know you kind of kind of hinted a little bit during the episode that you were not going to predict UVA to win this game, but give us your thoughts here, your final thoughts on how this game is going to go, and your final score prediction.
I'll go 31 NC State, 24 for Virginia. I'd say Virginia covers. I think the over hits in that case for sure. The over is probably my most confident pick. I don't think Vegas has compensated enough for the defensive fall off and the offensive improvement that Virginia has had. So I'm going 31-24, and I think I've kind of explained my reasons for that throughout the show, so I don't need to reiterate.
Yeah. And one thing which I think that we haven't really talked about, I think that's going to be big is for NC State is limiting the big plays. It's something that has killed us in 3 games so far on the defensive side. But like if you're not getting off a run or a play for 30-40 yards, then you're maybe getting a play for a yard or two. That's just how that's how our defense has been the last 3 games. Is either you're going to get big on us or you're not going to get much at all on us. So I think that's really the biggest key for NC State is keeping everything in front of them. For the love of all good things, keep everything in front of them. If Tony Gibson rushes less than 4 during any play, I'm going to make sure that his shot collar, that I set off his shot collar on his ankle, man, because there is zero reason with this defense that you rush less than 4 any single given play. It doesn't work. You got to put pressure on these guys, especially a young guy like Virginia has, a true freshman quarterback. You got to put pressure on him. You got to rattle him, and keep it coming. Like literally make him go to the sidelines and go, like, is it ever going to stop? Leave no doubt. Make it clear to them it's not going to stop anytime soon. As long as you're in this game, we are coming after you. Like that's how, in my opinion, for not only just this game, but for the entire season. Like anytime we've rushed 3, we've gotten fired up every single time. So it's just makes no sense. Again, Notre Dame to begin the first couple drives, we bought pressure. We did great. 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. But then once we started rushing 3, then Sam Hartman was throwing every single pass that God can think of and was completing it with success. So that's my big key is limiting the big plays, especially on the road. You got to prevent big momentum plays. You again, bend but don't break. That's always been the philosophy of this defense, and it's got to be the philosophy of this defense once again moving forward. Again, keep everything in front of you. If there's a play for 8 yards, so be it. But you can't give off one for 30 yards, So, right. And then my other big kind of question as well is Rakeem Ashford, a guy who got it seemed like just basically, luckily enough, came off pretty well with the play that occurred against UConn, but sounded like basically just a lot of soreness, So do we finally see him back? The question. So kind of keep an eye on that. Is again as of this recording, which is Sunday, we haven't seen depth chart yet, but that should come out tomorrow. So if you're watching this or hearing this by now, then So we'll be interested to see. But anyway, long story short, my predictions. I'm going to say 35. I'm between 14 or 17.
I knew it.
I'll go 17. I'll go 35-17. I'll go 35-17. I think it's a big day for Brandon Armstrong. I think, again, like I said at the beginning, that this should be a game where Brennan, even if it wasn't UVA, plays well. But I think that with the added, motivation to have a big day and to make a point, I think a big game is coming for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the defense, again, just like you were saying, Dan, like, just man on man, I think that, there will be a time or two where UVA has a drive that goes well, and that's where I think the 17 points comes from. Just has a couple drives that go well, but I'm just saying, man for man, I just don't see how this defense gives up too much, to this offense. But again, we'll see. But again, for me, once again, y'all, I'll remind everybody once again, if you missed it in part 1, if NC State loses to Virginia, you will see me on Monday in a tutu. I'm telling you right now, I will make sure I have it already ordered from Amazon. I'll make sure it is here, and you will see me in it, Little Fan Nation. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be pretty, but I don't care because I'm that confident that I will risk that amount of embarrassment. I know there's no upside here, but I guess besides the upside that I told you so. Like that's basically the upside I guess I have here, but so, what? Yeah, amen. No, right? Yeah. All right, Dan. Well, first of all, thank you so much again for joining us, man. Really do appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure to have you on. We definitely got to not wait, how long it's been, a year and a half before we have you back on again, man. So maybe bring you back on before basketball season, talking state versus UVA is maybe things like that. So, but Dan, once again, just help us once again for any of our followers or viewers that want to be able to keep up with your work or follow you. What's the best place to do that?
Yeah, so my Twitter is mainly where I post my sports content. Dan's at Dan Siegel _ Dan SIEGEL _. I write for 2 sites, mainly Streaking the Lawn, which is the SB Nation affiliate of the University of Virginia, and also College Basketball Review, where we are doing team profiles every single day right now in the preseason from 100, counting down the 100 days to the college basketball season. We're approaching 50, so we're getting there.
It's crazy. Yeah, look forward to it. And then for us, Wolfpack Nation, and once again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that free notification bell so that way you're notified whenever we release any new NC State content. And then make sure, again, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, as it really helps support us, and it just really helps us know that you're enjoying what you're seeing or hearing, which we appreciate a lot. And then make sure to give us a follow at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. But we'll see y'all soon. Looking forward to seeing y'all on the live stream Monday, hopefully after a huge win. And we'll see y'all soon. And go Pack, y'all.